you learn how to suggest in an attractive manner to someone how they might offer you an opportunity.
Right,
this is one of the reasons it's so useful to teach your child, to help your child develop extremely polished manners.
Yeah.
And because what happens if you have well-mannered kids who say please and thank you and who know how to shake hands and introduce themselves and who are sensible enough to listen to an adult, then they will charm the adults, and not in an instrumental way, a manipulative way, but they'll charm the adults, and the adults will reveal the best part of them, and then they'll offer the kids all sorts of opportunities. And so what a deal that is for your kids.
And we see that just happen over and over. And what do we have to do? Nothing. We don't set these up. We don't matchmake. The young people go out and do it all with parental permission, and with the parents have to sign off it's safe. But they're out there doing. Our boys went through amazing. They ended up their final apprenticeships were at SpaceX.
Right.
And you know what? They did that on their own. I mean, that was
that's great too, because that makes it their accomplishment.
Oh, it's
that's
absolutely
another
their
thing that's so useful about not doing too much for other people, isn't it? So one of the things that, as a therapist, it's very easy to steal your client's success and to slough off their risk. So for example, if you come to me and say, well, do you have some advice on the career front? And I say, well, this is what I think you should do, and this is how I think you should do it. And you go out and you do it. It's like, it's not obvious at all whose victory that is.
Right.
And then if you go out and fail, well, I failed as a therapist, but not as much as you failed. So it's like your skin.
I'm going to claim the victories and
let's slough off the failures. Yeah.
Well, this is why, by the way, we don't ever talk about the success of our graduates, because it's their success. You just won't hear us talk about that. I mean, we just don't. It's their success, not ours to claim. And it also brings up the hardest thing we have. It's not the young people, it's the parents. And I asked our son the other day, a good friend was working on something about fatherhood. And I asked our youngest son, Sam, I said, this whole fatherhood thing, you would understand it better than I have because you're the customer, right? You're the person. And said, so what advice would you give my friend about fatherhood? And he said, when you're younger, you just want your parents around and to pay attention to you.
Yeah.
Not coddle you, but just to be there. And he said, but once you get into kind of middle school, you're really around your peers, and your parents, their job then is to be a good role model. And he said, and this is what chilled me, he said, so to be a good father, all you can do is work on yourself.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so hard.
Yeah.
And I stopped and I went, oh my gosh, have I worked on myself enough? I mean, but it was just like this from a 19-year-old. It's like, as a father, I need to love my child and work on myself.
Yeah.
And that's the way the child will be healthy. The reason that when we have a problem, it's generally the parent, over-parenting or wanting to intervene for the child.
Yeah.
And they're prohibited by contract from doing that. They sign a contract that says, I won't do that, and then they'll do it anyway.
Right. And so it's very hard for parents to let go of that. It is hard. If that's their habit.
It is hard. I mean,
and there is a narcissism in that too, because then the parent gets to take credit for the child's success.
Right.
And to trumpet that. And
yes.
And that's that whole Oedipal mother nightmare that Freud outlined so brilliantly so long ago. It's like, and it's hard if you're a caregiver, again, to give the devil his due.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably harder for women because they have to give their all to their infants in a self-sacrificing manner.